you, Swana, for giving us an opportunity to present our solution to Bakote open dump site, which is a burning issue right now. We will be covering two major important objectives. Objective A is the closure of Bakote dump site, and Objective B is the development of new landfill. For the Bakote closure, we will be having most important thing is the final cover, MOF station, and the refuse transfer station. The gas generation and collection design will also be considered. While for the new landfill, we will be having bottom liner, final cover, along with the financial analysis for both of the objectives. The major problem right now existing is the Bakote dump site, which is detrimental to public health and it is an environmental hazard right now. It's a 45-acre dump site, which is a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and there is 2 weeks before there was a huge fire on the open dump site. If we talk about the plan overview of Bakote, it has been divided into 3 zones, Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3, where we are thinking in Zone 2 to construct wetland, material recovery facility, and for the existing active dumping zone, we are thinking to cover that thing and having a gas collection system. If we talk about the Zone 1, cleanup is necessary and installation of gas is there. For Zone 3, we need an active gas collection system and monitoring wells. For Zone 2, we require to develop a constructed wetland and material recovery facility. We talk about the Tambana, which is the only feasible option for us to develop the landfill site, though it is just a 12-acre landfill site. We will be covering in the subsequent slides about the designing options.
4 main technologies were considered on how to use the land after the closing of the Bakote dump site. We considered open dump mining, the sustainable landfill option, as well as a covering or land capping system and the gas collection system. The land capping and gas collection systems were finally accepted to be done in the Bakote dump site. The existing dump site is also going to be repurposed into kids playing area, a material recovery facility, and a constructed wetlands. A botanical garden as well as a football stadium were considered, but we did not accept it for the final procedure. The final cover of Bakote is of great importance. The primary reason being that the existing Bakote dump site does not have any leachate collection system. It also do not have a bottom liner. So if water infiltrates through the cover and reaches the waste, leachate is produced and it will lead to the contamination of the groundwater below the waste dump site. In order to avoid that, we are providing a sophisticated final cover, which includes a 6-inch topsoil and 24-inch of protective layer, the geotextile filter with geonet drainage layer, and a geomembrane will be used with, and also a geosynthetic clay liner will be used above the foundation or the gas vent layer. It could be costlier, but our primary importance is to avoid any infiltration to the dump site. The waste generated that goes to the Bakote dump site has mainly it is stored somewhere as a temporary storage, or maybe some rack people are taking it and recycling it. It goes to the junk shop finally, and some of them are will be taken care using the MRF, whereas the rest will be dumped in the open dump site as of now, and later moved, when we moved Tambana, it will be dumped in the landfill. It is important to consider the rack pickers who will be displaced when the Bakote will be closed forever. The social inclusion is important because the waste pickers or the rack pickers, they are the the people who actually work on ground picking up or to consider differentiating all the recyclables. It is important to give them cooperative societies or proper healthcare facilities because they are at the bottom of the recycling profit pyramid, whereas they do the most amount of work. As Ketan discussed, we are planning to have a material recovery facility in the Zone 2. the material recovery facility not only helps in sorting the recyclables and non-recyclables, it also provides jobs for these rack pickers who will be displaced from the open dump site. The major portion of the recycled waste like paper and cardboard could be separated by hard sorting, and we will be also using a trommel screen for in the material recovery facility. Later on, when we have more funding, we can add more machines in order to do a more fruitful or 100% sorting or recycling the waste. A refuse station transfer station is important in our current place. The main reason being that the distance between the area of production and the landfill or the dump site is huge. A garbage tipper can be used to collect waste from the houses and will be moved to a transfer station where there will be a hopper and it will be compressed using a compactor, and then it would be taken by a hook loader to the landfill or the dump site that is existing. A hauling cost is the most important point that is deciding whether we require a transfer station or not. Here we see that the break-even point is 12.5 mile, and from our calculation, the distance between the area of generation and the area of disposal is much greater than this 12.5 miles, and so we are in need of a transfer station.
Okay, in alliance with what my colleagues have said, we're going to be providing, since the gas collection is acceptable at the Bakote dump site, we are going to be implementing gas collection system. But in order to do that, we need to understand what's going on. So when municipal solid waste decomposes, a huge amount of gas is often generated. And this is through a biological process where microorganisms just decompose into carbon dioxide and methane and other gases. Now, collection of these gases do help prevent explosion. Like one of my colleagues, Keaton, just mentioned that there were fires in the dump sites some weeks ago. This can be avoided if gas is actively being collected, and then we reduce our chances of fire and other fugitive emissions. Now, if these gases are collected, they have to go through a processing facility where toxic gases and gases that are not useful for energy recovery can be taken out of the gas stream, and then we have only methane present in the gas stream at a high purity level. Moving on. So here we have done the gas estimation, and we have calculated for the first year, and we also calculated post-closure, and then we went ahead calculate the gas estimation rate for 2020, and then 5 years after that, which we believe the landfill will be closed, is 2025, and then we also calculate the gas generation rate. Moving on, we did use these factors that you see here, the methane generation potential and the methane generation rate constant, as long as along with the population growth rate of 4.2%, which was also used as the waste generation rate. Moving on to the Bakote dump site gas collection system layout. So here we have 580 by 580 overall area feet required. So, and we have decided to go with a triangular gas collection well spacing system, where the distance between those wells are found using 2R cos 30, and we found them to be about 145 feet between each well. And then we require a buffer zone of about 218 feet. Overall, we have designed to put in 8 gas wells here, which will be installed in 2 phases, 4 gas wells in the first phase, which will be at zone 1 and 2, and then 4 gas wells will be installed at zone 3 after closure, which all these gases will be connected, and then gas will be collected from each well and then passed into the blower, which can be sent into an energy recovery facility or used to generate electricity or flood if needed.
So for the leachate, we are thinking of constructing a constructed wetland at Bakote dump site. The reason for selecting that is because there is a large area in Bakote, and the constructed wetland, the only issue with it is the need of a large area, which we have at Bakote. Next is We do not need to send our leachate or a groundwater for treatment to a private lab, thus saving us expense. And as Aishwarya has mentioned before, it will also generate work for the workers there. So the rack pickers who are getting displaced are going to get work there. And the water that will be produced out of the constructed wetland would then be distributed over the vegetative cover. Thus, we are going to recycle water. And since it's a self-maintaining system, self-sustaining system, we are going to save money on the operational cost as well. So it's a very inexpensive solution to this problem. Moving on. The leachate, the wetland design we are considering now for 7 acres, but once the zone, the middle section of the Bakote is closed, we can think of expanding it. For now, we are considering for zone 1 and 3, which are the aerobic zones, 2 days of the HRT, which is the residence time. And for the zone 2, we are thinking of 25 days of HRT, which is the anaerobic zone. For the plants for the zone 1 and 3, we are thinking of vetiver grass. And for zone 2, we are considering cactial papyrus, which are very common in the Gambia region. So it does not add to the cost. Coming to the groundwater monitoring at Bakote, for the groundwater monitoring at Bakote, we cannot build the LCRS system, which is the leachate collection removal system, because the Bakote is already filled. So, and also there is a possibility that groundwater there is contaminated. So the plan is to pull out the groundwater using suction pumps and then treat them at the constructed wetland, and then take few samples of that to a nearby facility. And then after the treatment also, we are going to take some samples and send it to the nearby facilities. And every 7 days, we'll be doing the sampling. For the leachate and groundwater quality analysis, as I had mentioned previously, we'll be doing sampling every 7 days. And we'll be sending it to 2 facilities. One is the Everpure and Natural Pure Water, and another one is the SGS Gambia. And both of these facilities are about 16 to 28 minutes away from Bakote and about 1 hour, 30 minutes away from our proposed site. So that's why we are going to select this West facility for both of them to treat the leachate and groundwater. Moving on.
If we talk about the financial analysis of the existing dump site, the major crucial aspect was the final cover, because we need to make it sure that the water infiltration doesn't take place. We also take care about the operations waste and daily cover, and have other components like gas collection system, wetland construction and material recovery facilities, as my colleagues mentioned. The major chunk was 22% with the final cover enclosure, and the individual unit breakup is as shown here. The total cost for landfill construction was obtained as $138.46 per meter square, and the overall ballpark value of $18.8 million was achieved. This was excluding the technology transfer fees, the cess, and the government taxes. If we talk about the Tambana landfill, where we'll be having the new development of the scientific engineered landfill, it is a new area, but the most feasible one right now, seeing the conditions of the Gambian region. We started with the projection of the waste generation. It's a decadal waste generation shown on the right side from 01 to 2010, and with a 4.2% of the growth rate. The first year population we have estimated as 1 million, and the area required is 48.4 acres. Keeping in mind, this much area will be required, but we are not sending all the waste to the Tambana landfill. We will be diverting waste to the material recovery facility as well as other processing facilities like vermicomposting and other biodegradation areas. For the next 20 years, the projected population is 3.02 million, while the total area required will be 1732 acres. Again, the diversion will take place. If we talk about the final cover of Tambana, the most important thing is the geomembrane, and we are not having as thick a layer of geomembrane as we have in the Bakota, because this is a sophisticated landfill and it will be having a bottom liner as well as the check on leachate treatment and collection will be there. If we talk about the gas wells, the Tambana region will be having a 722 by 722 feet square of area. We're having a buffer of 111 feet, and there will be a total 9 gas wells being obtained based on the formula as mentioned by one of my colleague OP. And we will be generating the collecting the gas to the blower, and the blower will be sending it to the gas to electricity grid. If we talk about the Lanjam results, the overall gas generation was coming out to be 8 into 10⁴ cubic meter per year, which is a quite fair amount, and which we need to take care, because if you see from the graph 2025, the methane generation is 50% of the total gas generation.
So for the leachate collection and removal system at Tambana, we are planning to build the leachate collection pipes parallel to the lines, the orange lines which are shown, and then there'll be a perpendicular line which will be connecting to those leachate pipes and taking it to the leachate tank, which will be next to the office and parking as shown in the image. We'll be collecting the leachate using the sumps. We'll be storing it in the Tambana storage tank, and then we'll be transporting it to the Bakote for treatment. Moving on. And so for the leachate collection system, for the we have used two drainage layer. One is the GeoNet and the GeoTextile, and we are having a leachate collection rate of about 60 gallons per acre. For the GeoNet, we'll be using a biplanar GeoNet design, GeoNet material, which meets our requirements. Moving on. For the geotextile, we'll be using non-woven needle punched polypropylene geotextile style, and this was done. It'll have a soil retention of 0.466, and it has a porosity of long-term compatibility greater than 90%, and it also meets our requirement. So coming to the pipes will be placed on a sloping surface of 2%, and then the pipes itself will be placed at a sloping surface of 1%. The reason for doing that is it will allow the gravity to do its work to allow for the free fall of the leachate to the sumps, and then from sumps to the storage tank. Thus, we do not have to use pumps to pump out the leachate and save money on it. We'll be using a HDP STR11 for the pipe material, and for the holes for the pipe, we are thinking only of 2 holes on the either side. To maintain less than 12 inches of leachate head in the pipes. Moving on. For the leachate collection, we'll be using sumps, which will be maintaining the previously mentioned less than 12 inches of leachate head, which is a requirement. And then it will be transferring it to the storage tank, which will be placed at Tambana. Moving on. For the storage, we'll be using an XLPE crosslink polyethylene tanks, and these are very durable. They do not corrode very quickly and do not get damaged. So we'll be using a 4,000 gallons capacity, and we'll be transport the collected leachate every 10 days using a septic truck, which will have a capacity of 3,300 gallons. And we'll be using just one septic truck to save on the cash. Since we are doing every 10 days, that should be sufficient. Moving on.
At Tambana, in order to checkmate the groundwater integrity, we'll be collecting samples of the groundwater and would have groundwater wells which will be installed using the direct push well method. And then we're going to have low flow purge collection method or no low flow purge collection method. And then would have pumps in these wells which could be connected to either solar panels or biogas energy, and then these pumps will be low energy requirement pumps, and then the sampling frequency will be done every 7 days, and if there are contaminants found, then 90 days continuous sampling analysis showing contaminants within permissible limits will be done. And then, like my colleague mentioned, we would send those samples to facilities nearby, which will be SGS and Everpure. We have the bottom liner profile view here for the Tambana landfill, and here we have gone with the double composite landfill liner system. We have the primary GeoNet drainage layer, the geomembrane layer, and we also have the secondary GeoNet and geomembrane layer, and secondary layer we also have a geotextile layer. And overall, we have 9 layers here, excluding the waste. Moving on. Here we have the 3D view of the Tambana landfill post-closure. After it has been closed, you can see the vegetative cover being at the topmost layer, and then within the landfill you can see it's well outlined, and you can see pathways and all that, and fences and all the proper requirements. And we also have a flare here to connect it to the gas collection system if flaring is required. Moving on.
Talk about the financial analysis of the Tambana region. The major chunk comes with the final cover and the bottom liner, because this one will be the newly scientifically engineered landfill. Keeping in mind the site development and the site assessment, the site acquisition won't take that much, because in the developing countries, they usually don't charge for the site acquisitions. While for the operations waste and daily cover, the major chunk is 20%. The unit analysis for overall financial analysis is as shown here. If we see that 29% is to the liner and leachate collection system, while for the total cost for the landfill construction came out to be 150.63, and the overall financial analysis came out to be 10.24 million. This is our team. Sonakshi, OP, and Aishwarya presented with me. Mithila, Hussain, Asma, and Dravid give a considerable efforts for this presentation, as well as the report and poster. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, I can go first. I have some questions here. Well, first, thank you for an outstanding presentation. Really appreciate the thoughts that went into it and all the calculations and details. My questions, I'll ask two questions. One is the leachate. You mentioned about having a transportation system going from Tambana to Bakote with the sample equipment that you saw that can transfer the leachate. My question is, why would you do that when when Tambana is going to be engineered and moving the leachate from an engineered landfill to the dump site, which is in a more higher population density? Um, so that's my question for that one. My second question is on the water sampling. You've talked about groundwater monitoring and doing more monitoring when you capture contamination. My question there is, what do you do when you have found contamination besides just monitoring? How do you mitigate the problem, and what steps do you have in place to at least alert the community about what is happening besides just monitoring more? Thank you again. Really appreciate your time and effort in this project.
So I can take that question. Thank you for your questions. So to answer the first question about the leachate, the reason we are planning to send the collected leachate to the transport it to Bakote site to the constructed wetland for treatment is because we have to dispose that leachate, the little leachate that we are going to gather there, or which will be very minimal because it's going to be a very good landfill with all the bottom liner and all kind of capping on the top, daily cover. But there might be a possibility of any kind of little leachate being collected. So we have to treat it before we dispose it. So we are thinking of sending it to the Bakote constructed wetland, where it can be treated very well and then converted to a good water, and that can be used to water the vegetative cover which is on top of Bakote. So we are kind of recycling the water also. So we are that way we are not wasting the water. So and it also generates work for the people. So that is one reason. Second of all, we did look into it if there are any other ways of treating the water in and around the area. Everything else seems very expensive because you will have to send it to a private lab, or you will have to send to a wastewater treatment plant, which is just going to add to cost. But this way we are generating revenue because we are actually generating clean water, and it might be used in future for other purposes also once the Bakote landfill is completely closed. So that was our reasoning behind it. I can answer further if you need more clarifications on it. And coming to the second question of the groundwater, so for that, we are thinking of 3 steps. One is the detection monitoring, which we had mentioned in the presentation, that we will be regularly doing sampling and see how are the if there are any contaminants being seen. But if something does come, if we notice something, then we will be doing assessment monitoring. So in that case, we are going to select a portion of those pumps which are near that area, and then we will be doing regular inspections. And for that, we are thinking of training at least a small portion of rack pickers also, who can do just the sampling part, and the analysis can be sent to better labs that will generate a better work also. And then finally, we are applying for corrective action based on the methods that are, if they actually, we are not able to control the highest permissible limit, then we are thinking of the corrective action depending on the situation for the 162 chemicals that needs to be controlled. So that would be very specific based on what kind of a chemical it would be. So that's our plan for groundwater.
Thank you very much, Brother Kawa, for those brilliant questions. And to the presenters, much appreciation. We've done a very good job. My concern is regarding the zoning. If you looked at zoning, zone 1 is the east part of it. That's where we have all the runoff water. And then by your presentation or by the diagram, you made mention of zone 2, that is on the higher side. And then meaning if you wanted to use that as a runoff water holding area, meaning you have to do some work in terms of drainage constructions. because zone 2, by your diagram, zone 2 and zone 3 are on a high side. Already that area is full to capacity. All the runoff water goes to the zone 1. So if you wanted to change that, it requires some construction side. I'm not sure whether you put that into consideration.
Thank you. I can take that question. So for the zone 2, we went for zone 2 because we did, initially we put some of our constructions in zone 1, and it was deemed unacceptable by the SWANA team during the checkup meeting. So we had to move those constructions to zone 2 because they do not want anything that could interfere with the community or any other thing in zone 1. So we are aware that zone 1 has the lower topography where the water is actually settling. So yes, we would also be having drainages and trenches taking back whatever liquids may be required, and pipes will be running through those trenches and taking it to the constructed wetland, which will be at zone 2.
All right, my second question is looking at the diagram also of the refuge transfer station. Right. The truck is on top, and then you have the other truck down. Is it that it's going to require some excavation so that at least, you know, the tipper can be able to drop the weight in the hopper?
Yeah, so I can take that question. So for the refuse transfer station, what we are planning is we are planning for the surge pit kind of system. There are 3-4 types of system for the refuse transfer station, which you can proceed with the implementation at the Bakote dump site. What we are thinking, like nearby Bakote, what we are thinking is to have this type of surge pit kind of thing, because that is the most prevalent type and the procedure implemented in the developing countries. I can quote an example for the Indian conditions, like let's say the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, which is the biggest corporation in Gujarat, which is the western part of India, and they are using such type of refuse transfer station at large. And at a power of around, you can have a capacity of starting from 200 tons per day to 1,000 tons per day. Now it depends on the waste tonnage, the population, the per capita waste generation, and how the waste is generated, how the waste is collected, and how far it needs to be carried for collection and transportation for disposal. What we have planned here for the Bakote closure and for the Tambana region is, as per our calculations, comes out to be 12.5 miles, which is like the intermediate junction where you can have the refuse transfer station. I hope that clarifies. If you want more, I can explain in detail.
Yeah, because it seems it might require some excavation for the because presently the zone 3 and zone 2 are almost full to capacity. It's only zone 1 that, you know, is not much full. So if such a kind of design or a system wants to be at the Bakote dump site, it might require some excavation.
Sahil, I mean, your voice was breaking, though, like, yeah, I appreciate your comments.
Yeah. Hello, are you getting me?
Yeah, now I can hear.
Yeah, okay. All right, it's okay. I think you get my point. It's all right.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question as well. First off, very good job. I think you were the only team to mention surface emissions monitoring. That's a key part to future gas monitoring. I really liked that a lot of your ideas you incorporated low cost or low technology options, which are easier to implement in a lot of different areas. Question I had is within the MRF, a lot of the discussion focused on paper and glass recycling. Those are approximately 14% of the total waste. Yet sand is 44% and organic waste is 35%. You're proposing a landfill site that's only 12 acres, so it'll be critical to reduce and divert waste as much as possible. you talk a little bit about how you would try to encourage and maximize diversion of sand and organic waste?
Thank you for your question. I can take that. So regarding the MORPH facility and having sand as a higher component of the waste, we have included a technology called the trommel screen, which can screen out sand from the waste stream itself. We had a picture of the trommel screen in our presentation, and that handles that. I hope I answered your question.
All right, that concludes our Q&A session. Thanks again, Sustainable Environmental Solutions, for the excellent presentation.